Hello, I'm James Anderson with Sonic Studio. In this video tutorial, I'm going to walk you through the installation process for our entry-level digital audio workstation product, PreMaster CD. So let's get started. At a minimum, PreMaster CD requires the following: an Apple Macintosh G5 1.5 GHz minimum or an Intel Mac, a 1024 by 768 pixel or larger display, 2 GB of RAM minimum, 4 GB or more preferred, OS 10.4.11 or newer, and a spare USB port for an iLock smart key. For delivery of the final DDP image sets for replication, a data storage device such as a DVD-R or data tape drive is required as well. Since PreMaster CD uses OS X's core audio, the quality of audio playback will be entirely dependent on the hardware and drivers used. After you've downloaded the most recent version of PreMaster CD, locate it and double-click on the PreMaster CD installer.pkg icon to launch the installer program, and then just follow the on-screen instructions. The introduction page contains important information about the installation and operation of this application, as well as a list of issues that have been addressed since the last release. Sonic Studio recommends you take a moment to read this important document before clicking Continue. The next window is the Sonic Studio LLC End User License Agreement page. Please read this carefully before clicking Continue. Next, click Install, then enter your password and hit Return. The PMCD installer works its wonders and places a folder in your Applications folder titled PreMaster CD. Once the installer program has completed its duty, select OK, and the installer quits. Next, click on the Go menu at the top of your screen. Select Applications, locate the PreMaster CD application folder, and double-click on the PreMaster CD folder to open it. So let's go over the PreMaster CD folder contents. In the documentation folder, you'll find the PreMaster CD keyboard shortcuts document, the PreMaster CD user manual, and the PDF README document that contains up-to-date info on installation, new features that have been added, and fixes since the last release, as well as a list of known issues. Next is the Extras folder. The Delete PreMaster CD Preferences.command utility, when launched, restores PreMaster CD to its factory default settings. If you are upgrading from a previous version of PreMaster CD, you must run this utility before launching the newer version. If this is a clean install, PreMaster CD hasn't been on this computer before, there's no need to run it at this time. The DigiDesign Core Audio Drivers Guide discusses the setup and connection of DigiDesign hardware. The Interlock Extensions Install.dmg is the latest version of the PACE iLock extensions and drivers that are required to run PMCD. If you've already downloaded your PMCD license to your iLock, or you've already had an iLock before, there's no need to run this installer. The next folder down is the PMCD 3.0 options installers. PreMaster CD requires you to run the Install PreMaster CD Options MPKG utility to install options such as DDP File Open, Manual Declick, No Noise Fixit, or DSD Converter for your Macintosh. Let's run through this process. In this case, we'll install the DDP File Open option. We run through the installers, and in this page, it's very important to only select the installers that are on your iLock. Installing options that aren't on your iLock will really slow down PMCD when it launches. So we've selected the DDP option, hit Install, enter your password, and PreMaster CD's installer package will install the DDP File Open option onto your hard drive and allow PreMaster CD to use that option when it opens. This process is described in the PreMaster CD Options Installer README, and the Remove PreMaster CD options would be used if you've received a trial of one of our products from us and it expired, or you'd accidentally installed an option when you ran the PreMaster CD Options Installer. Next, down the line is the PM-CD Tech Memo. We'd suggest you read this. It contains some important information about the nomenclature and terminology behind PreMaster CD. Next is the PreMaster CD application down here. For easy launch, we would suggest you drag it down to your dock and install it. To launch PreMaster CD, locate its icon in the dock and click on it. PreMaster CD launches, and the first window we see is a PreMaster CD project window. At the top of the project, there's a time display field, as well as lock and dither indicators. Below that is a set of play, pause, and skip buttons, and the main edit decision list, or EDL, left and right channels as well. Let's open up a couple of more windows now. From the Windows menu, we'll select Meters, and the Meters window gives you an output reference. Within the Meters window, there's a Detail window that allows you to adjust meter scaling, and the meter ballistics, or how quickly the indicators respond. Reset and Clear are other optional buttons within the Meters window. The next window we'll look at is the Mark Info window. This window is where you enter the CD text metadata, such as the album title, the album artist, the UPC EAN number, the track title, track artist, and International Standard Recording Code, or ISRC number. In the bottom of the display here, you'll also see the name, start, duration, and ISRC code for each track once they get added into a PreMaster CD project and marked with start and stop marks. The next window we're going to look at is the Preferences window. This is the global preference settings for PreMaster CD. At the top here we have the Fade tool. When checked, the Fade tool will be enabled for editing. To learn more about the Fade tool and its properties, you should see section 3.8.1 and 4.1 of the user manual for a full description. The next line item down is Snap to Edit Point. When checked, dragging a segment near the position of an edit point will cause this segment to auto-snap to that edit point. This feature is really only applicable when dragging audio into a project from the Finder or another open project. The next item down is Snap to Zone. When the zone snap is checked, dragging a segment near the start or end of another segment will cause the segment to auto-snap to the red or blue snap locations. See section 4.3 for more information on the drag and drop and auto-snap functions. The next section down is auto spacing duration. As described in section 4.3 of the user manual, auto space uses a pre-selected time value to space the segments. Here, this value is selected between 1 and 3 seconds. Alternately, auto space can be turned off as well to 0 seconds. The next line item down, analog black threshold. This field shows the default value used by the mark analog black to marks command for the amplitude threshold. This value, expressed as dB below 0 dBFS, sets the loudness threshold below which a start track or end track mark will be placed. See section 3.9.4 of the user manual for more information on automatically placing PQ marks. The next section down, Edit with Audio. The selection reference point line. When editing, this causes SRPs, or selection reference points, to move along with their associated segment. They also are included in the audio when it's copied to the clipboard and pasted to another project. Gain overlay. When editing, this setting causes gain nodes to move along with their associated segment. They are also included with the audio when it's copied to the clipboard and pasted into another project. The default fade mode. This selector determines the default fade curve used when any new fades are created in PreMaster CD. The 5 curve options are cosine, root cosine, linear, root linear, and exponential. Linear fades, the default, are the most broadly applicable choice. Section 4.1.2 of the user manual briefly discusses the 5 curve shape options. Import Sound Designer to regions into segments. When selected, Sound Designer 2 regions, if present, will automatically be converted to separate segments upon opening in PreMaster CD. When off, the entire SD2 image will be imported as one contiguous segment. SD2 regions to marks. When on, Sound Designer 2 regions, if present, will force PreMaster CD to put marks, start and stop marks, at the region's start points. When off, the entire SD2 image will be imported as one continuous segment. The next preference tab in the left-hand margin is Time Display. The Time Display timecode format selector allows you to preset the displayed timecode format to 75 frames per second, 30 frames per second non-drop, samples, or seconds. Compact discs use a special timecode format, 75 frames per second, not used elsewhere, while 30 frames per second non-drop is the legacy standard used by the original 1600, 1610, and 1630 series of video cassette-based CD preparation systems. The nudge values A, B, and C define the amount of time that segments will be nudged when the edit, nudge, left-right commands are applied. For a complete description of the working of these commands, see section 6.2.17 of the user manual. Next are the zoom in-out fields. The time value entered here defines the amount of time in the total display after a zoom in and around an edit point command. See section 6.7 for a full description of these commands. The next field down is the zoom to set start. This time field defines how much time will be displayed when the zoom to selection command is applied. For a full description of this command, see 6.7.10 of the user manual. The next field, play around endpoint. The values in these fields describe how much time will be auditioned when the play, to, from, in, or out point commands are invoked. For a full description of these commands, please see section 6.4.10 and 6.4.11 of the user manual. Show subframes, when checked, forces all time fields at the top of the project display to show additional time code subframe information. The next tab down in the Preferences window is the EDL tab. The View section has the following options. Show track name. When checked, an additional layer of visual feedback is enabled in the project's EDL. This alternate view produces a graphical approach to evaluating and manipulating your PQ metadata. Existing metadata is displayed from an object-oriented perspective, whereby each CD track that will result from your current PQ placement is shown in gray, while the pause between the tracks is shown in blue. Section 3.9.5 of the user manual discusses the track bar. The next checkbox down, show segment names. When checked, segment names will show in the title bar. When unchecked, the title bar of segments remains empty. And the next line down is zoom factor in percentage. When zooming in or out, the display will be zoomed by the factor defined in this field. The default, 90%, means that 90% of the current waveform view will be zoomed to, with 10% overlap for visual context. This preference only applies to selection. In the next section, titled Waveforms, you can set the way you want waveforms created. The default setting is foreground waveforms on, and we recommend that you leave it in this mode. The options here are create waveforms manually. Background waveforms, when checked, the waveforms will be generated in the background upon opening a sound file from another DAW. When unchecked, no graphical waveform files will be produced automatically. The file build waveform command will manually generate the waveform files. We'll switch back to foreground waveforms and go over the last line item, remove waveforms on close. When checked, the waveform metadata will be deleted when a project is closed. Display Auto Tools is the next area of the EDL Preferences tab window. The Display Auto Tools section of the EDL tab has the following options. Auto Scale On. Once selected, the display is scaled vertically so that the maximum peak within the entire panel becomes full scale. This preference provides overall amplitude scaling while maintaining visual context between loud and soft passages. Scale to view, right here. When enabled, the display is scaled vertically so that the maximum peak within the current visible waveform becomes full scale. This preference provides local magnification, excellent for fine editing, but it requires that you refer to the numeric vertical scale to determine the general amplitude of the waveform displayed. Show track scale in dB. When enabled, the amplitude scale is shown in dBFS or dB full scale referenced to a full 24-bit AES-EBU data word. When off, the panel's amplitude scale is shown as a non-dimensional normalized value ranging from 0 to plus or minus 1, equating to digital silence or full scale respectively. The next section down, playing auto tools. Auto scroll playhead. Once selected, the playhead will move as normal until it reaches the right edge of the waveform display. Then, the move forward command automatically takes place, moving the waveform view to the right. Auto scroll track. When selected, the playhead stays centered in the waveform display, while the underlying waveform display continuously scrolls. We recommend that both of these tools be disabled for general purpose use. The next tab down in the left-hand margin of the Preferences window is the Delivery tab. The first line item, Keep DDP Image. This checkbox retains the directory or folder containing the DDP file set that forms the basis for all CDR deliveries in PMCD. See Section A 1.5 for information on using the DDP file set for replication. The next line item down is the Emulation Mode checkbox. This checkbox causes PreMaster CD to emulate a CDR burn, allowing you to validate your project's settings without writing to a disk. While disabling writes to your optical mechanism in this mode, PreMaster CD does write a CD's worth of data, approximately 650 megabytes to your hard disk. In general, we would recommend keeping this checkbox unselected. Write CD text. This checkbox causes PreMaster CD to write CD text specific CD plus G metadata to a delivered CDR. The text metadata will be included in DDP file sets. See sections 3.10.1 and A1.5 of the user manual for specifics about CD text. The delivery speed area. The speed selector calls out the speeds that the target mechanism and host are capable of providing for your delivery. When choosing CDR delivery speed, remember, the speed is inversely proportional to pit jitter. That is, higher speeds will induce more jitter in the CD's physical pit structure, while lower speeds will result in less jittery pit structures. Lower jitter is generally better in terms of subjective audio quality because it requires less vigorous clock regeneration in the D to A or digital to analog converter to attain a reasonable amount of jitter in the final analog output. A good compromise here is to use the 4x delivery speed. The next section down is the offset section. The start offset. It takes a typical CD player about 2 to 20 frames to fill its buffer and start producing valid audio data after it has located the correct start location. The start offset backtimes the start time that the player reads to ensure that the beginning of the track will not be cut off by the player. End offset. The end offset prevents the player from muting too early at the end of the track. This offset value applies to all end-of-track marks, including the last. Track 1 offset. This setting allows the start of track for track 1 to have its own offset value. This is because track 1 on a compact disc is different from the remaining tracks and requires an extra long offset to allow CD transports to initialize prior to the onset of audio data recovery. Splice offset. If a start of track mark is not preceded by an end of track mark from the previous track, it is considered to be a splice or segue. The split offset applies only to the special case of splices. The splice offset must always be equal to or less than the start offset. Splice offsets are typically a bit more than half of the normal start of track offset. Minimum index width. This field sets the minimum time between index marks. According to the Red Book standard, index marks should be at least 1 second apart, and marks that are closer to the start than the minimum index width are ignored. Disable offsets. If this button is enabled, the offset shown in the offset window will not be subtracted from the PQ mark time either for display or delivery. In general, there's no need to adjust any of the offset parameters. The next section down applies to the output dither of PreMaster CD. Under dither type, we find 2 different dither algorithms. The shaped PDF line selects Sonic Studio's proprietary spectrally shaped triangular PDF probability density function redithering. The next line enables Isotope's mbit plus redithering. In mbit plus, there are a number of other options for shape and amount, and to apply auto blank to the project or not. So the next and final window we'll go over in this tutorial is the Background Manager. The Background Manager window allows you to add a sound file to a queue and process it in the background. In the Add a Process menu of the Background Manager, you can add sample rate conversion, PCM to DSD conversion, add DSD to PCM conversion, build waveforms in the background, or with the manual declick option, do decrackle passes in the background. There's more about the functionality of the Background Manager in the PreMaster CD user manual. After you're done setting up your preferences, we would suggest quitting PreMaster CD. This process saves the preferences you just set up to the hard drive and recalls them each time you use PreMaster CD. So let's launch PreMaster CD one more time. We'll see that it opens as expected, with all the windows that were open previously opened again, and a new project open and ready for you to use. So remember, after installing PreMaster CD, drag the PMCD icon to your dock for easy launch. If you purchased options such as DDP file open, manual declick, no noise fixit, or renovator, make sure to run the options installer program. And remember to only install options that are on your iLock. Installing options that are not on your iLock will cause PMC to launch very slowly. If you accidentally installed an option that is not on your iLock, you should run the remove PreMaster CD options.mpkg utility located in the extras folder of your PreMaster CD application. So in closing, we would recommend that you read the PreMaster CD 3.0 user manual. It can answer a lot of questions that may come up. And if there is anything that you can't find, feel free to contact us at support@sonicstudio.com. Thanks for tuning in, and as a reward for watching this video, here's a great cartoon for your enjoyment.
Oh, little Audrey says, save for a rainy day. She saves, but every time it rains, she spends what she puts away. She knows her proverbs A to Z and knows the good they bring. But when she has to follow them, well, that's another thing. Oh, little Audrey says, while the sun is out, make hay. Though she's not immense, there's a lot of sense in what little Audrey has to say.
Goody good morning, you lovely ladies. This is your friendly chef bringing you your daily baking recipe. And this one takes the cake. Today we're baking a delicious, tasty gingerbread. Yes, we are. Are we ready, Cookies?
Uh-huh. I'm ready.
Good. First, we break 1 egg, and I'm not joking. Now, 3 cups of flour, 2 cups of milk, 4 cups of sugar, and then just a bit of salt.
Hey, not so much.
Add a dash of ginger. Now, some mustard, cider, vinegar, salt, vanilla, nutmeg, pepper, malt, sugar, spice. That'll suffice. And a cake of yeast. Now, beat it. Oh, not you, the batter. Fast, faster, 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 faster. Stop! Pour batter into gingerbread mold. Place in oven. Bake at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. And now, relax. Simple as pie, isn't it? Skill with a skillet is how you fill it. Well, that's all for today. Listen in tomorrow for your friendly chef with his daily tips on how to raise the dough.
What am I doing here? I'm supposed to be in Cake Land.
Gee, you can talk and walk.
And run, too. Well, so long. I got a date with a cake. And I'm late.
Hey, wait for me, wait.
Run as fast as you can if you want to go with the gingerbread man.
Gingerbread boy, where are you? Here you are.
This is Miss Angel Cake, my bride-to-be. We're getting married today, she and me.
Married. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Come on, let's go.
It's a gay holiday. All the friends and relatives are on the way. The gingerbread man has selected a wife, a sweet angel cake for the rest of his life. It's a time to rejoice. Every mother horn is lifting up his voice. The wedding night moon is a big macaroon, and it's gonna be a honey of a honeymoon. And bells, French pastries will be there, and surely we'll have something sweet to say. And Mr. Aceware, debonair, will bring lady fingers, while Mr. Rumcake lingers to celebrate his very joyful day. Here's a wish, here's a prayer, jumbles everybody to the happy pair. May they roll in dough as together they go through life. So the gingerbread man is taking the angel cake for his wife.
His wife? She's mine. Mine. If anyone knows why these sweet things should not wed, speak now.